Good evening, everybody. So we have two briefings this evening, just so you're aware. Okay. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to talk about the Reconciliation Action Plan. I'd like to begin by highlighting that for many thousands of years, the Kaurna people have occupied this region, including the land that is now known as the town of Gawler. I acknowledge the Kaurna people as the traditional custodians of the lands on which we live, work, and meet this evening. I pay respect to elders past and present and extend that respect to all First Nations peoples and their connections to country. So, what is reconciliation? At its core, reconciliation is about building respectful relationships between First Nations peoples and the wider community for the benefit of everyone. It's an ongoing process grounded in respect, inclusion, and shared understanding. It invites us to come together to confront the truth of our shared histories and recognise the ongoing impacts of colonisation on First Nations peoples. This deeper understanding is essential to creating lasting and positive change. Council plays a vital role in advancing reconciliation. As an organisation, we can lead by example, advocate for change, create opportunities for our staff and community to learn and participate, and take meaningful action within our sphere of influence. What is a RAP? So, RAPs provide organisations with a structured approach to advance reconciliation. The Gawler RAP outlines practical actions that Council and its partners are implementing to build strong, respectful relationships with Aboriginal people and communities in Gawler and across the region. The Gawler RAP provides an avenue for all members of the community to contribute to the reconciliation process. Reconciliation Australia's RAP framework is based on three key areas of relationships, respect, and opportunities. To enable organisations to continuously develop their reconciliation commitments, there are four RAP types to select from. These are reflect, innovate, stretch, and elevate. As shown in the slide, the innovate RAP type is for organisations in the implementing change phase of their journey. An innovate RAP is implemented over a 2-year period. The Town of Gawler's first and current RAPs are both innovate, and the new document will also be an innovate RAP. The Gawler RAP Working Group oversees the development of the RAP and monitors the ongoing implementation of the RAP actions and deliverables. Our working group comprises Aboriginal people and non-Aboriginal people from community and council who have a passion for deepening community awareness, driving social change, and helping to create a community that demonstrates pride and respect for First Nations peoples and cultures. And as highlighted, the current RAP working group members include Dale Charlie and Janaea, who are community reps, Councillor Helen Hennessy, Councillor Ethan White, and Acting Mayor Nathan Shanks as our council member reps, and Andrew, Chia, and myself as staff reps. So why have a RAP? Support for reconciliation has grown significantly over the past 3 decades, with increasing awareness of the complexity of First Nations cultures, experiences, and perspectives. More Australians now also recognise the ongoing impacts of colonisation on First Nations families and communities. The Australian Reconciliation Barometer is a national research study undertaken every 2 years and the only survey in Australia to track the progress of reconciliation. It measures attitudes across the 5 dimensions of reconciliation, which are race relations, equality and equity, unity, institutional integrity, and historical acceptance, and this informs data collection and analysis. The 2024 barometer data has been released as a series of reconciliation snapshots that are downloadable as fact sheets from the Reconciliation Australia website. These snapshots include the Workplace RAP Barometer, Multicultural Australians, Young Australians, Racism of First Nations peoples, Truth-telling and Historical Acceptance. So the Workplace Reconciliation Barometer measures perceptions and attitudes of employees in organisations with a RAP. Comparing the findings from both the Australian Reconciliation Barometer and the Workplace Reconciliation Barometer demonstrates the positive impact that RAPs are having. Nationwide, more than 3,000 organisations have a RAP, influencing the experiences of more than 5 million people. The results of the Workplace Reconciliation Barometer show that employees of RAP organisations are more committed to advancing reconciliation, with RAPs positively influencing their perceptions and attitudes compared to the general Australian population. RAP employees have greater knowledge of colonial Australian history, 70% compared to 60%, and a stronger belief in the importance of understanding its impacts, 92% compared to 80%. RAP employees more strongly believe in acknowledging Australia's shared histories, 88% compared to 71%, and rectifying past wrongs to enable everyone to move forward together, so 45% compared to 28%. So in 2024, the RAP working group reviewed the current Gawler RAP. As part of this process, a traffic light report was developed to provide a snapshot of all our RAP deliverables and their implementation progress. The table outlines the status of each deliverable as complete, in progress, or not yet started across the 3 RAP areas of relationships, respect, and opportunities, as well as the progress and reporting section of the document. So these figures are from May 2024 when the report was produced. So it's important to note that although our current RAP has been reviewed, it remains a working document and will continue to be implemented until the new RAP is endorsed and published. And reporting annually to Reconciliation Australia via the RAP Impact Survey is also still required, and even though the current RAP's duration date has recently expired. So the review undertaken by the RAP working group identified several key findings, including the areas that will require much greater focus and commitment when implementing our next RAP. The deliverables in the opportunities section have been by far the most challenging to implement. So this section of the RAP covers employment outcomes and training opportunities, supplier diversity, economic and social outcomes, and community participation. The RAP is overly ambitious, comprising 26 actions and 133 deliverables. Many of the additional deliverables either similar in nature or duplicated. And there is a need for broader responsibility and commitment across the organisation to ensure the ongoing successful implementation of the RAP. Importantly, the review also highlighted the many great initiatives and valuable partnerships that have occurred as a direct result of the Gawler RAP. Just some of these include the Gawler NAIDOC Family Fun Day, which is proudly co-hosted by the Town of Gawler and the Gawler Aboriginal Health Team. This event continues to grow each year, celebrates First Nations cultures and highlights the strong connections that we have within the Gawler community. With plenty to see, do and learn, it offers a meaningful opportunity for people to come together and connect. This year included Welcome to Country and smoking ceremony, live music, dance performances by the Dusty Feet Mob and Imbala Dance Group, barbecue by the Rotary Club of Gawler Light, activities and giveaways. The health team's Blackout Initiative working group coordinated the Nunga Brick Road, which involved almost 40 stalls and this was a very well received component of the event. The town of Gawler hosted a stall at the event, showcasing information from a cross-section of council teams, while the Gawler youth ran their own space at the event, featuring the popcorn stand and face painting. We estimate that around, well, at least 800 people attended throughout the day. The Ghana Cultural Mapping Project supports the RAP by strengthening understanding of Aboriginal culture and history and recognising the significance of land and places within Gawler. In 2022, this initiative encompassed a cultural assessment of 40 kilometres of significant riverside space along all banks of the North Parra, the South Parra and Gawler rivers within the town of Gawler boundaries. Council engaged Integrated Heritage Services, who worked in partnership with Raw SA and the Ghana Yurta Aboriginal Corporation, to undertake both archaeological and anthropological Aboriginal cultural heritage surveys. Council received a comprehensive report, much of which is culturally sensitive and will remain confidential, though it does identify the location of 6 scar trees, an artefact scatter, 3 potential shelter trees, and several other areas of significance. The Ghana Place Names Project contributes to increased acknowledgement and respect of local Aboriginal history and wider recognition of the Ghana people as the traditional custodians of this region. In late 2023, Jack Buckskin, who's the Director of Kumultaro Cultural Services, partnered with Council to assign Ghana names to 6 of Gawler's large parks and reserves, as well as the Pocket Park located at Whitelaw Terrace. The Ghana names for each space are highlighted in this slide. I'm going to do my best to pronounce them correctly. So Dead Man's Pass is Yanbana, meaning purple ochre. Apex Park is Mierna Itcha, meaning for the people. Pioneer Park is Tulia Mukabandi, meaning remembering the soldiers. Clonley Reserve is Nunyayata, meaning place of joy. Prince's Park is Tidnabundu, meaning football. Reed Reserve is Tapana, meaning paths or trails. And the Pocket Park is Tanya Gupta Namkiana Mukabandi, which means remembering courageous women. So the assigned Ghana names are not direct translations of each park's English name, rather they acknowledge and recognise the types of activity to occur at each space, both historically and today. Signage was installed, signage installation was finalised at the beginning of this year. Each Ghana name has its own QR code displayed on a majority of the corresponding signs. The QR codes link to the Town of Gawler website with further information and a sound file for each Ghana name, so people can go on there, listen and learn how to correctly pronounce them. Also on the Town of Gawler website is a great video of Jack talking about the Ghana Place Names Project and why First Nations languages play an important role in education and advancing reconciliation. Another highlight is the amazing community artwork facilitated by Caitlin Davies-Plummer of Dust and Colour Art. As part of the 2024 Gawler Fringe, Caitlin spent 4 days as artist in residence here at the Gawler Civic Centre, creating a large-scale canvas themed around community, connection and culture. Community members were invited to engage with Caitlin, observe her creative process and contribute by painting their own small section of the canvas. And I know there's quite a number of staff members and council members who got to paint their own little bit in the middle section of the canvas. So the result is a spectacular 3-metre artwork, now on permanent display in the Civic Centre, up here on level 1 at the top of the stairs. In support of recognition of this year's National Reconciliation Week, council members, staff and volunteers are invited to attend the Town of Gawler National Reconciliation Week breakfast, held on Thursday the 5th of June. Breakfast was catered by Divine Dining, and the morning's keynote speaker was Jack Buckskin. Jack delivered the Welcome to Country before speaking to the Rec Week theme, Bridging Now to Next. He shared some of his own experiences, the importance of language and culture, and his hopes for the future regarding reconciliation. So, developing a RAP is a collaborative process undertaken in partnership with Reconciliation Australia, and it involves 4 stages. So, stage 1 is registration. In January this year, the Town of Gawler registered with Reconciliation Australia to formally commence development of its new Innovate RAP. Completing the registration process, including payment of the RAP development fee, provides access to the RAP portal, the templates, and the resources required to support the RAP development. And just to note, from the date of registration, which for us was the 9th of January, Council has 12 months to submit a draft RAP via the portal for review by Rec Australia. Stage 2 is drafting the RAP. So the RAP is drafted using the Innovate template, which outlines the mandatory actions and deliverables required for Reconciliation Australia's endorsement. In addition, organisations are expected to include actions and deliverables unique to their core business, their community, and their sphere of influence. Each deliverable is assigned both a responsibility and a timeline. And introductory content must also be drafted under the headings Our Vision, Our Business, and Our RAP. Once the first draft is complete, it is submitted via the portal for review. The draft is assessed against RAP requirements, and feedback is provided by Rec Australia staff. Typically, 2 or 3 rounds of feedback are required, with a standard review timeframe of 4 weeks. Stage 3 is conditional endorsement. So after the review process, Reconciliation Australia progresses the RAP to endorsement. At this stage, the written content is approved and the RAP logo is provided to us for inclusion in the final plan. Once the designed RAP is complete, the final PDF is uploaded via the RAP portal. And then stage 4 is the formal endorsement. At this stage, Rec Australia will formally endorse the RAP, approving the final design document and publishing the new Gawler RAP on their website. Once formal endorsement is received, the RAP becomes a public commitment and the Town of Gawler is recognised formally as a member of the RAP network. The RAP can then be shared and promoted externally. So since the start of this year, the RAP working group has been developing Council's 3rd Innovate RAP, aiming to produce a concise, streamlined document with well-considered actions and deliverables that address the needs and aspirations of the community and Council, and a plan that can be implemented within our available resources and capacity, achieving meaningful outcomes over the Rec Australia assigned 2-year RAP period. This time round, development of the RAP has involved engagement with a wider range of Council staff and teams. This approach gives staff the opportunity to deepen their understanding of reconciliation and the RAP process, shape the actions and deliverables relevant to their work areas, and identify their commitment to the ongoing implementation of the RAP. Staff and teams who've had direct input into the RAP actions and deliverables include people and culture, finance and procurement, cultural heritage, open space and landscape, libraries, community services, and climate and sustainability. So all new RAP actions and deliverables have now been drafted. The responsibilities and timelines are yet to be assigned, and the introductory content, including our vision, our business, and our RAP, is currently being prepared. The draft RAP is anticipated to be submitted to Rec Australia for its first review in the coming weeks, and the draft will also be shared with Council at this time. So the development of the new RAP also includes commissioning a new RAP artwork. Expressions of interest were recently sought from First Nations artists to create an original art piece. Applications were open from the 28th of July to the 25th of August. 2 submissions were received, both from artists connected to members of the RAP working group. To ensure fairness and transparency, the expressions of interest were assessed by an independent panel of council staff rather than by the RAP working group as originally intended. The panel, selected due to their shared knowledge and expertise in procurement and the arts, included David Barrett, Executive Manager, Community and Strategy, Renee Jericho, Manager, Finance and Procurement, and Jacinta Weiss, Cultural Heritage Centre Coordinator. So Chloe Smith, local artist, has been selected as the artist for the RAP artwork. Her submission was strong and closely aligned with the RAP and artist brief. And collaborating with Chloe also provides council with a really valuable opportunity to support the growth and development of a young emerging First Nations artist. The artwork will be displayed as a physical piece and serve as the central design element of the RAP document. It will also be used for promotional and educational materials such as lanyards, acknowledgement of country cards, library membership cards, and to communicate and support Council's reconciliation initiatives. Council members, staff and volunteers will have the opportunity to engage with Chloe and participate in the artwork design process should they choose. So, to wrap up, pun intended, reconciliation action plans really do make a difference. And the RAP working group is very excited to lead the development and endorsement of Council's third RAP. RAPs provide organisations with a framework to contribute to the reconciliation movement. They deliver tangible benefits for First Nations peoples and increase cultural safety in the workplace. Employees at RAP organisations are shown to be more committed to enhancing reconciliation, with RAPs positively influencing perceptions and attitudes. The Gawler RAP provides opportunities for council members, staff and volunteers to build connections and partnerships, embedding reconciliation principles into everyday practice. The Gawler RAP promotes understanding of shared histories, cultures and achievements and encourages individuals to advance reconciliation at work, at home and in the community. While there is always room to build and progress, Council can be very proud of its achievements in the reconciliation space since the launch of its first RAP back in 2018. Thank you. Questions?
Thank you. That was really a fantastic overview of a lot of work that you put in over the years in getting the groups of different people involved. Yeah, it's not easy and it's been fantastic work. So thank you very much for everything you've done in this space. It's been really well recognised and yeah, it's a real feather in the cap for all the work that's been done. And yeah, it's not easy, so it's really good. Just because we are sort of evolving with these RAPs, are we starting to try and get other organisations, or there's already the Gawler Health Service Network, which is they're kicking goals that the rest of the country is not even achieving with their work. How to integrate some of that, and even some of the bigger companies now are really keen to get involved with RAPs from other organisations and actually put money into them as well. Just any of those sort of thoughts, have they progressed at all?
Well, we do work very closely with the Aboriginal health team at the Gawler Health Service. So we're always sharing ideas and looking at new and different ways to collaborate and different initiatives. And Council does get a lot of phone calls and queries, emails from other organisations who are maybe starting out on that RAP journey. There's only 3 councils in the state that have a current RAP. City of Adelaide, City of Marion, and City of Unley. And Unley's is about to run out in September 25. Um, and we will go back on, so they're the ones listed on, they have an official endorsed RAP, so they're listed on the Reconciliation Australia website. We have just come off because our duration of our RAP was till 2024. We will go back on in the new year once our RAP's done, but there's, we engage with our neighbouring councils, and they don't have RAPs. Some councils don't feel the need to have a RAP. They're doing a lot of good work in space anyhow. Port Adelaide Enfield is a good example of that. They have never had a RAP and probably never will, but they've got other documentation and are really strong in that space. Yeah, we just continue to work alongside those that are keen to grow and develop in the reconciliation space, and where we can offer some guidance or support or advice to those organisations that are maybe looking to develop their own map. We're definitely there to sort of help in that way.
Just a follow-on question about the employment side, which is really difficult. But my previous experience was that, especially there were other major companies that were willing to actually help with the financing of positions as well, because they've got responsibilities under their own wraps to try and do that, and we'll partner as well. And I know it's a really difficult area, but any updates in that space as well?
It's a massive challenge, and it's not just about having jobs available. It's that holistic approach and that wraparound support and ensuring that people are culturally safe and they know they have that support from the organisation they're working for, and they're not just sort of left to fend for themselves. But that's a big reason for working more closely with other council teams this time round. I don't think we quite did that well enough when we developed our last route. So we're making sure that happens this time, and we've had meetings and conversations with HR, finance and procurement, just to start really delving into those areas. So when our RAP's done and we're well into implementing it, we can really focus on some of those things that are going to boost employment opportunities and outcomes. And it's also about volunteering opportunities, traineeships, all of those things that lead into employment.
Thanks very much, Linda. That was great, a very good presentation. I would have liked to ask a few questions as we were going through there. There's some very good comment, good points that were put up there. And I mean, by way of like we represent the Ghana people. Is that what we do in this area? We always refer to the Ghana people as the First Nations people, and so forth. And a number of things that you said in there, especially towards the end, of how it's a matter now of us employing more staff to and for developments and things like that. Is there a goal to just how far you want to go? Because going back to the failure of the voice in the nation, and that nothing much has been done in so many other areas. And yes, how many people of the Ghana people or of the Buckskins and all those are actually involved in what we, as the town of Corners, through ratepayers' money, are actually doing for them? But mate, well, I saw a lot of things there where it would mean that This is not a one-sided thing. You and your team are doing a fantastic job. It's also got to be done on the other side with the First Nations people to be supportive and to do what has to be done and work together. You mentioned a number of things, especially towards the end there, where from here the Gawler Wrap will go further and we'll need more staff and facilities and things like that. That means more money. And sadly, at the moment, as an elected member, when the ratepayers say, well, what are you spending that money on and what's happening and so forth. And it's a bit like the rates. Council gave us this sheet to explain why the rates are dearer in the town. We need to know also. I also would like to know, with all being involved with this and getting more involved with it, as to what the top end benefit's going to be.
I think at the core of the RAP, it's about relationship building. So it's not just about putting money into creating new positions or that kind of thing. It's really about those relationships that are built over many years. As Councillor Hughes pointed out, we've sort of been in this space for, this is our third RAP, so we've had a RAP since 2018. But Council, I think one of Council's first reconciliation initiatives actually occurred back in 2002. So that's a long time for a council to be working in this space. But over that time, we have developed really strong working relationships and partnerships and collaborations with the Aboriginal community, and that's what we aim to keep doing. And I guess the other side of that is about RAPs providing cultural learning opportunities, educational opportunities, awareness raising, so the wider community, our staff, just have more awareness of what it means to engage Aboriginal people, what it means for us to have a culturally safe organisation where Aboriginal community members want to come and work. So I think, at the crux of it, it's about partnerships and building those relationships so we can continue to move forward.
Just further on that, Brian, to answer your comment around additional staffing for implementation of the RAP, that's not what we're talking about. What we're actually talking about is creating, as Linda just mentioned, culturally safe spaces in our workplace to attract First Nations people to work for us in existing roles. So when someone leaves the organisation, we go out to recruit a replacement, so not a new staff member, a replacement. We want to be a place where First Nations people want to work. So we'll get them to apply through strategies that we're implementing through our HR new procedures around inviting First Nations people to apply direct, and with our partnerships we're building with First Nations people. So it's not additional staff, for sure. It is existing staff turnover to try and attract more First Nations people in. By having a RAP in place, we should achieve that in the future.
Thanks, Lou. That's great. I think where I sit in this is, like, for instance, signage and that's around. And I myself, and I noticed you had a bit of trouble explaining some of the cultural First Nation wording and so forth. When people do their walks around the town, we talk about tourism and that sort of stuff. I believe it's going to be the square, that thing that's going to be on the sign. Well, that's going to answer that question, probably, and so forth there. But I've not seen any, real, what's the word I'm trying to find? You're saying we've got to get a better relationship. I believe the relationship's great, and I believe it's working great, and that sort of stuff. And if there's been things that have actually gone the other way and people have sort of said, and then they're discriminatory or whatever it may be, and I understand what David said, that's okay, but I think as an elected member, people expect us to know. So I was sort of wondering if it's possible to get a hard copy of what you had, because I think was really done well. But I've not experienced anything in the last 10 years that I believe that we're not working together as one. Because I've always said we are one, and that's what the song's all about. We've got to work together.
So the QR codes are out there. The signage has been installed and there are QR codes on the signs. But I believe my presentation will go to council members anyhow. And have a look on the Town of Gawler website because all the sound files for each of the Ghana names are on there, and you can listen to those. But I would agree that Gawler Council should be very proud about the work that it's done in the reconciliation space. I would say there's always progress to be made. We can always learn. But I would say Gawler Council is a leader in the space. We get a lot of queries, questions from other councils, other organisations, schools, community members, people who are studying. Because we are seen to be doing a really great job in the space. And I think we have a great community. Um, and we do have a lot of those long standing, strong partnerships with the Aboriginal community and Aboriginal service providers. So, yeah, I agree. There's always work to be done, which is why we'll continue to have the RAP so we can keep moving forward. But yeah, Gawler is doing quite a good job. So I agree with you.
On the NAIDOC um, uh, activities that we have, I've heard a lot of good stuff in the last couple of years. Congratulations on that. I was just wondering, in terms of growth, what does that look like in the last couple of years compared to historically as well?
So that particular event has changed a little bit over the years. It actually used to be held during National Reconciliation Week, and we used to do it outside in Apex Park or Minyana Itcha. And I think events may have also occurred for a while before I started here. Um, but since I've been here, we've always partnered with the Aboriginal health team. And the reason for the change, they were really successful when we held them outside and during National Reconciliation Week. But Reconciliation Week is very much focused not on the Aboriginal community. That's more about non-Aboriginal people. It's more about awareness raising, cultural learning, that kind of thing. So the decision was made to pull that from Reconciliation Week and hold it in NAIDOC Week, because NAIDOC Week for the Aboriginal community is their week of celebration to spend time with families in communities. And it's a time for celebrating, um, which was the reason we decided to put that in NAIDOC. I think it has more of a celebration vibe to it. We always used to book the sports centre as our backup venue, because obviously, in winter. And only one year we got rained out, and but everybody liked it at the sports centre, so that's where it stayed for the last few years. But that event is really driven and led by a lot of council support, and we put a lot of work into it. It's a partnership, we co-host, but it's really driven by that Aboriginal health team, and I think that's important, and I think that's what makes it successful, and that's why we get so many community members and so many members of the Aboriginal community come along to that event. So we'll be guided by them as to, if there's going to be sort of any changes or it morphs into something a bit different, we'll be guided by the Aboriginal health team.
So yeah, the presentation will be shared with members on the hub. It might actually be the detailed presentation rather than the visual, so it has all the content as well. So we'll share that across to you. So thank you, Linda. If there's no further questions, we might take a couple of minute break and then Tim will start for a sleep briefing. Thank you, Linda.
Good evening, everybody. I covered top Linda's presentation. Thanks so much. That was very thorough. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Linda. So I've said to David that I'll do a different sort of presentation so that you try not to compare the two. Um, we present on progress against the Climate Emergency Action Plan twice yearly, and I'm pleased to report our progress again now. We've got greenhouse emissions data in for this year. I haven't got absolutely everything. I haven't got the materials use yet that we've had for the year, but we've got a good overview of how we're going in that sense. And we've been very busy on electricity procurement, as Bryce knows, and he's been shielding me from a lot of things because the electricity procurement process was quite involved. So we haven't progressed everything, but I'll share with you the actions where we have made progress. Now, I did try this. Thank you, it works. So initially, I'll just do an overview of progress against the Climate Emergency Action Plan goals. I was going to have the community and greenhouse gas emission profiles here, but they haven't been updated, so there's no point in me showing you old 2023 data again, so we'll skip over that. Progress against our SEEP actions, including electricity procurement, advocacy and reform, regional collaboration and opportunities, local collaboration and supporting our community. We've had some interesting experience there, which has been really great, and climate risk and governance. Then we've got a little slide on the next steps. So on our goals, these are the high level things. There's 13 or 14 goals. We've made progress against every goal. There's nothing which I would say that deserves a red traffic light. We haven't made absolute progress in everything. We made good progress in some areas. So these are the community goals. Our Climate Emergency Action Plan leads up with the community goals. These are the high level things that communities have access to affordable renewable electricity. We've got some constraints there because it's not something that we can control ourselves, so we try and do that through influencing others. On the rest, we've made some progress. So communities are supported in the transition to electric vehicles. We've obviously got some electric vehicle chargers installed. Bryce and myself are working with other parties about getting more EV chargers into the area. So we're making some progress there. Connected, safe and cooler walking and cycling routes. Well, Town of Course making steady progress to that. It does through its business planning and its annual projects. So I won't dwell on all those in any detail, otherwise I'll just get bogged down. On the council operation goals, again, we've made progress in all areas. We've faced constraints in some areas. A 25% improvement in efficiency for buildings and operations, that we've recognised as good because we've had some big wins in some of our bigger areas of use, including public lighting in our big buildings. 100% renewable electricity for council by 2025. We've made some really good progress there with our new electricity contract. We haven't got everything into the new contract yet. There's still a few bills with AGL and Origin where we're not 100% yet, but they're very minor. Zero use of natural gas and liquid petroleum gas connections. Obviously, there's a challenge there because we can't make the Gawler Aquatic Centre give up gas tomorrow. It's too big, it's too old a piece of infrastructure. We need to wait till there's a redevelopment opportunity. Fixed electric vehicles, we've made some progress here. We've got our 2 electric vehicles. We're looking at what charging needs to be put in at the Gawler depot, what's possible before redevelopment as an interim measure, all of those types of things. We're making some progress there. Establishing the greening of Gawler policy to increase tree canopy from 15% to 30% by 2045. Obviously, we've had some challenges there this year with a really long extended drought that everybody felt, and a very high mortality rate of the trees that were planted. And there's no point in planting more trees if there's going to be such a high mortality rate. So we're looking at what else we need to do in that space. To be a leader in procurement of low carbon goods and services, we've made some progress. There's a few constraints that might be another area that we get onto down the track, and to establish best practice approach in identifying managing climate risk for council and our community. And I've got a little bit more to say about that down the track. On implementation and insurance, Yes, we're doing that. We'll have a detailed progress against actions report for you to have a look at. We've got this presentation for you. We'll have the information able to be provided to the community about Gawler's progress and our greenhouse gas emissions to date. So the progress against the actions, that's the next thing. These are the many detailed actions that we have. We've got 22 completed or actions where it's either been completed or we've made substantial progress. We've had 15 with moderate progress, 9 with minor progress, and obviously some challenges, and 3 yet to commence. We didn't promise that we would do everything in the first year. There are staggered timeframes throughout, and obviously when we hit a roadblock with one action, we can always progress another action. And overall, it's a living document that we're making progress towards. So, council emissions profile. I'm not sure if any of you remember that last year I said there were these 2 different accounting methods and we were switching from location-based accounting to market-based accounting, and that basically says we're going to report our emissions in accordance with what we buy. So when we buy renewable electricity, we report our emissions using a market-based approach. And that's what I've done this year. So on the market-based approach, our emissions were largely from electricity, 1,284 tonnes of carbon dioxide equivalent overall. Our transport fuels were another really big chunk out of that. We've got scope 3 emissions. Scope 3 emissions is a strange one because if you go into it in exact detail or infinite detail, you could say that you're responsible for everything else across the whole of the community, but there's no way that we can buy offsets for all of our trading partners and all of our downstream and upstream connections. So what we're doing is what many companies do. They're acknowledging and reporting their major scope 3 emissions and looking at what else they'll need to do as the reporting requirements become clearer. Water is another big one. We're getting better emission factors for water. That's pushed up the emissions from our water use a little bit. So that looks to be about 12% maybe of our total emissions. And gas is the gas that we consume for the Gawler Aquatic Centre. We still use our location-based emissions. This reflects what's happening in South Australia. So if you look at our location-based emissions, you can see they're 900 and, is there a pointer on this? 935 tonnes carbon dioxide emissions this year. When we started back in 2018-19, they were 1,662 tonnes carbon dioxide equivalent. That's basically because of the increase of renewable electricity going into South Australia's grid. It's nothing that we've bought. Yes, Cody?
Could you just a quick explanation of the difference between market-based and location-based emissions?
Sorry, okay. So market-based emissions is a special kind of accounting that reflects your purchasing decisions. So if you buy standard grid electricity, you get what they call a residual mix of emissions. If you buy renewable electricity, you can claim 0 emissions. And it all depends on the choices that you make as a customer. With location-based emissions, it simply depends in Australia on which state or territory you're in. So if you're in South Australia, your number is set at this. If you're in the ACT, it's classed as 0 because they purchase lots of, well, I'm not even sure what they do. For location-based emissions, they probably just use New South Wales emissions. And Tasmania has low emissions because they're generating lots of electricity from wind and hydro dams. So that's basically it. It's just a type of accounting which reflects your location or reflects your market choice.
Can I just clarify, Tim? That can only be for the electricity component because transport fuels, for example, is the fuel, and the water and the gas, for example, is the gas. So why would we be? Am I correct or incorrect?
You're correct, and it's changing. So the whole Future Made in Australia Guarantee of Origin scheme is starting to actually change that, so you could buy products with different emission intensities as well. So largely it started with electricity. You have location and market-based accounting for electricity. But it is changing, and some argue that carbon offsets are actually a market-based approach because you're buying offsets and transferring it from where the carbon was captured to you for you to claim it.
But in terms of kind of Gawler, use gas as an example. Am I correct in saying that 82 tonnes, that will be the same in market-based and location-based?
You're correct.
Right.
That one hasn't changed.
So the only one that has changed is electricity.
Largely, although water is another one. So water's really got some scope 3 components in it as
Okay.
well.
Because they could be using renewables that we're not aware of, is that right? Or are aware?
And yes, SA Water gave me the emissions factor that I used for several years, but this year I actually updated it to the emissions factor that was used for the Australian Submarine Construction Yard down at Port Adelaide, because that's an updated figure.
Just a follow-on question. If we were to overlay now that we're purchasing 100% renewables, has the electricity figure gone down to zero?
So if we're standing here in 12 months' time, that big blue part will be nearly zero.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah. That'll be a big change. I like electricity because it's just kilowatt hours and it doesn't matter, there's no green or red kilowatt hours. So if you just track our performance in the amount of electricity that we use, obviously we've had some changes in that. So in 2019-20 we were using 1.6 million kilowatt hours of electricity. In 2023-24 we dropped that down with all of the work we did on changing to LED lights to 1.4 million kilowatt hours of electricity. And then 2024-25, it's just gone up a little bit. Price increment about 2%, something like that, not a huge amount. And there's going to be variations in every year due to seasonal conditions and all of those things as well. So I think that our electricity will tend to increase each year with growth and new developments being added to our books. And there's also new opportunities for us to try and trim it back with energy efficiency and other actions. Energy efficiency actions reduced our electricity between 2019-20 and 2023. Demand increased in 2024-25. And the Gawler Aquatic Centre demand was a really interesting one that decreased from the previous year by about 30,000 kilowatt hours, which was a lot for that little site, largely influenced by seasonal climate conditions and the optimised filtration pumping. That was a real staff futures effort, and I think, I don't know the exact split, but I'm suspecting a lot of it came from better pumping. So I've just got a few slides which show what some of our users are doing. So in this one is the public lighting slide from 2019-20 through to this year. We can see when the LED public lighting upgrade was undertaken because that knocked down our electricity demand. The Everson Gardens Library, that's another site where we took some intervention, put in about a 30 kilowatt system, was it, Jack? Just over. And that reduced our electricity demand at that site quite significantly. It generates a lot of power. It's in a really good aspect. It performs really well, and that's reduced our electricity consumption. But we do have some challenges, and this is showing up from the data that we get from our monitoring software. And you can see in the morning, that's actually between about 6 and 9 o'clock. We're using a lot of electricity to reheat or recool a building, reheat in this setting. And that's also corresponding to where energy is most expensive, and with our new contract, that's going to be a problem and an opportunity. So if we can shift that and do a little bit more heating or cooling back here overnight when the wind power's providing our electricity and we don't need to buy any more, and before this peak price period, I'd like to show the price curve underneath. I haven't done that yet. But that's when it's really expensive, just between that point there to climbing up a hill before the sun comes out and starts giving you power. So opportunity there. At the Finner Street multi-level car park. This one I never expected to make so much difference, but we can see when the LED lighting was put in and the smart controls, it made a huge difference to that site. That was our fourth biggest electricity consuming site, and it really knocked that down, and that's holding. In the Gawler Administration Centre, we've really had three goes at that. The first one was the 99 kilowatt solar system put in before I started. Then we did the LED and smart lighting controls, and there were some new air conditioning units put in which were targeted to be more efficient than the old ones that are just due to replacement. But there's more work that we need to do at the Gawler Administration Centre because it's such a big site. And you see this little energy, whoops, I've really messed it up now, haven't I? I'll go backwards. Sorry about that. You see this little Energy Ready symbol here. Energy Ready is a service that's going to be provided to us by Flow Power free of charge for the first 6 months, and we can look at three sites for optimisation, which might include looking at energy efficiency opportunities or quantifying the benefits of battery storage and things like that. So this one is a site where we believe that we could do better if we work with Flow Power on energy efficiency opportunities. The savings at the admin centre was with the new HVACs that went in was inverter technology, which meant you weren't at full capacity. When the units were running, they were running at less capacity depending on the load demands throughout the day, and then substituted by the solar during the day as well. So when they really cracked out. Thank you, Jack. The Gora aquatic centre, we can see here that when they upgraded the pool filters from the old gravity filters, which were quite energy efficient for the pressurised system, which gives you better water quality, there's a trade-off. Electricity went up and then it's come back down again. So I think that's a really good achievement. But this is another site where we may or may not choose this site to run through this energy ready process to see what else we can do. It might be another site, but we've flagged that one as a possibility. The other one is this building, and this is the most interesting slide, I think, because we put in a 23 kilowatt solar system several years ago, and it really hasn't changed much. There's some very interesting things that go on at this site. Obviously, we've got some big pre-dawn demand loads there, and in this period, again, just before the sun comes up, while the sun coming up, energy is really expensive, and it's also really expensive at the end of the day. But we seem to drop off back to the base load. Whether you can actually get this overnight demand down any further, I don't know. But this is a site where it's quite a high demand site, so it's worth a while that we look into and see what else we can do, see if we can tweak building management systems and everything else. So a little bit on electricity procurement of Flow Power. It was signed, the agreement was commenced on the 1st of July 2025 for 9.5 years. It was negotiated via group procurement with 5 councils. Salisbury pulled out at the last minute, so it's only 5, including City of Halifax Bay, Onkaparinga, Port Adelaide, Enfield, West Orange and Town of Gawler. There's 3 contracts in it, and you really need to understand, well, you don't, but I do, how the 3 contracts interact with each other and interact with the billing. That's a little bit complex to work out. There's the power purchase agreement for an allocation from the Goyder South Wind Farm Stage 1A. It's about 20 k's south of Burra. And we buy electricity and large-scale certificates, the renewable certificates, at a fixed price. But it doesn't just stay like that. Then that all feeds into a retail electricity services agreement with firming electricity from the spot market. And in that, there's buying and selling, there's use of our wind power, but if we're not using it, it's sold to the market, and then other electricity is purchased back from the market when we need it. And that happens at 5-minute intervals. There's about 9,500 5-minute intervals in a 30 or 31 day period. And lots of calculations which go into that because the price is changing at each of those 5-minute intervals. At the end of the day, a single number comes out, but that number is different for every site because every site has a different demand profile. They're using electricity at different times. As we go over to smart meters, we'll get a better idea on that. They won't just be sort of default load profiles, there'll be real data load profiles, so that change is coming. But what it means for us is that we have to be really conscious of when we're using power, because when we're using power in peak pricing periods, we're paying too much. If we're using, if we're not using power when prices are so low that they're negative, like on weekends, we could be getting charged for electricity when we're producing it and selling it to the grid. So you don't want that either. You really want to be using the electricity. The best thing that really takes care of that is batteries, and that gives us an opportunity to look at where we should be installing batteries. The third aspect of it is a price ceiling agreement that protects Gawler against prolonged high spot market prices over a 3-month period. So it doesn't protect you against a 5-minute really high spot price. That still has to average out. Overall, we believe over the life of the contract that we're paying much lower prices, but we're protected against the worst high prices should they continue into a 3-month period. The flow power features. The billing components can be checked and recalculated. It was a bit of a learning experience last month. I persisted, drove flow power and our consultants' precincts nuts, asking lots of questions, figuring out how it worked, but I was able to recalculate all the bills between 1 or 2%. And I was really happy with that. And we actually asked some questions and made some suggestions for improvements. Precinct consultants are assisting to check contract performance. What they really do is they check how the contract's going against market pricing and give us an overview of how the market's performed and how they think the contract's performed in the market. They're providing that service for a limited period of time. I'm not sure if it's 6 months or a year. 6 months. And then hopefully we'll be trained up enough by that time that we'll be able to do it ourselves, or we can engage them a little bit more if we need to. We're purchasing 100% renewable electricity in the contract based on our mandatory renewables that are allocated to the grid, plus additional voluntary renewables. I've set the contract performance varies, and I've gone through the energy ready sites. Some sites couldn't be rolled over into the contract straight away. These are being further investigated. I'm going out with the crew, with Richard and Michael tomorrow to look at around about 30 sites where we think they should be lighting sites, but we don't know what type of light fittings there are. We don't know if there's other power demands as well. So we've got to get some better data to know if we can roll them into the contract or whether they must stay with AGL. Okay, that's the electricity stuff complete. Advocacy and reform. During 2025, we've seen submissions on the Made in Australia Guarantee of Origin consultation, the second round, the National Greenhouse Energy Reporting Determination, and the Green Power Strategy in an online forum. Current opportunities include providing feedback on the draft report for the review of the Climate Change and Greenhouse Emissions Reduction Act 2007. That's a state government one. They do a large review of that every 3 years to see how it's performing. Provide input into potential for a United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, I'm typo there, a Conference of the Parties 31 to be held in South Australia during 2026. Now that's a bit of a mouthful, it might not mean much, but if we are selected, if Australia wins that over Turkey, that'll be a massive event in South Australia happening at the end of next year, and local government will be involved. In fact, the LGA are asking at the moment how local government would like to be involved and what we would like to see, so there's opportunity to have input into that.
Sorry, can I put on the spot for a minute? Because I was approached by the LGA to provide some input into that, and I sat at my computer and I couldn't think of anything. Because I obviously understand what we do, right? But I'm trying to understand how the simple effect of having COP31 in South Australia, how does that directly assist that book? So I'm on the spot.
No, that's
Tell,
fine.
tell me if I'm taking on notice. Yeah.
Um,
Have you got some thoughts?
I go back to things like cost, which I know Brian's concerned about, and and our focus on supporting our community. So our community are the ones that have been paying for all the renewables to go in. And what I feel is that we need to be finding ways to make the transition fair and equitable and to assist um, our communities in Gawler be able to access affordable renewable electricity in clear and consistent ways with clear and consistent guidelines. There's opportunity for how local governments they have this huge amount of compact for subnational jurisdictions. I think is a big part of COP31, and having our local governments involved in that process and looking at how you can translate the benefits of the economic transition and the renewables transition to benefit people locally and especially cheaper energy would be something to look at. Just one idea. Happy to think about it some more and see what I said. There's, of course, lots of climate adaptation stuff. Climate adaptation stuff is a really big push by the state government, and the algal bloom in Gulf St Vincent has been a really big wake-up call because there are ways that climate change is impacting and is going to impact on us that we can't necessarily imagine and we're not ready for. So there's a lot of that preparing to be resilient, preparing to be adapt, and to be ready for change is another big thing.
Just on COP31, it's sort of 56,000 people. It's a massive number, and it's a chance to actually put Australia on the world stage and look at some of the innovative stuff working. I think working with communities is really vitally important in how to actually get everyone involved and actually understanding because there's a lot of misinformation out there as well.
Yeah, and it's really hard for ordinary people to get clarity on what's going on. So, and I kind of think if you just have clear and consistent rules and information going to the community, that would be a great area to talk about. And how to stamp out greenwashing is another big one.
You mentioned before about the power line that when council now is involved with, I think Chris made the announcement, we linked to that. I think I came past yesterday, I came home yesterday, and I went down past it because I wanted to see what it's all about. Because from that new power plant there is also supplying the largest, it'll be the largest again, which is up outside of Manor Hill, where it's going to be as big as Rossby Downs, they reckon. It's called magnesium. And that's going to supply that as well. But one of the things I asked when I was talking to the CEO of Borough Chemicals, it's owned by an overseas company. Now, I know most of the wind towers are owned by another country.
The transmission towers,
All that sort of thing. But when I came home yesterday, not one of those towers were turning.
Oh,
What's the story with that? I mean, so if they're not turning out running electricity, so where does the town of Gawler get the power from when they're not turning?
yeah, that's just firming electricity from the spot market. So the FOCAR contract aims to match our load with when the wind turbines are turning, and that is best overnight because most of our energy is used for street lights. It aligned best with the wind turbines because the wind turbines produce more electricity at night. So that gave us the best fit. And when we need more power, about 20 to 30% we need to buy from the grid. We're buying it from the grid in 5-minute intervals. So that's how you've got the electricity service agreement that brings the two together. It brings the wind power together and the electricity that we need to purchase from the grid. And that's how that works. And the wind turbines, they'll stop for certain reasons. There's normally one or two out of a group of a dozen wind turbines that aren't producing, and that's quite deliberate. There's generally some on standby. When the price of electricity goes negative, they'll shut them down. because there's no point in generating electricity if it's going to cost you to send it into the grid. So that's another part, that's that curtailment. But the good news is, as the new interstate power lines are energised, the new power link going across to the Energy Connect transmission line to New South Wales, that's going to mean that we can export more of that power all the time and have greater access to import power when we need it as well. So, yes, it's a complex market and it's a national electricity market. It goes from South Australia down to Tasmania and up to Queensland. So, all of that has to function together as they build these new transmission lines and connect everything up with greater capacity. Okay, so current advocacy opportunities, got through that. Got through the UNFCCC COP31 and collaborating with Climate Emergency Australia. We haven't done a lot with Climate Emergency Australia just in the recent months. We'll wait and re-engage in that process down the track when the mayor elections are all completed and things, because typically that involves a mayor as representing a council. Regional collaboration and opportunity. We've partnered up with what we call Resilient Northern Adelaide, which includes City of Playford and City of Salisbury. They're a great fit because they're part of Green Adelaide and helps us be part of Green Adelaide as well. It's an informal based partnership based on sharing knowledge, collaborating on initiatives that might deal with resilient housing or climate adaptation or anything that might come in the climate space. And it does provide some opportunities to access funding if we get to that point. But right now, it's been very good just for sharing information and finding out what's going on, connecting us in with the state government through the LGA on things like COP31 and all of those opportunities. Yeah, I've covered that. So providing valuable information sharing opportunities. On local collaboration and supporting our community, we've had the 2025 annual plant giveaway. We've participated in 2 full-day workshops for developing a new Northern York landscape management plan. I think there's one more workshop to go once they draft the plan. Bryce and I participated in a joint knowledge information resource sharing opportunity with Gawler Environment Centre. It was a really good event. We had us speaking, SA Power Networks, and Rachel and Tom Brodanovic from Tandem Energy. The community was really interested. There were about 30 people there. Out of that, we felt that there was opportunity for another energy forum. Maybe next time we'll just ask people to bring in their electricity bills and help people understand their electricity bills, because nobody really does. And even though I think I might get close and drift away and think, no, I still don't understand that bit. Exploring opportunities for future community-focused forums is something that's on our radar and we'd like to do. We understand there's more work to do in electricity, but also in supporting roadside greening is another opportunity that we'd like to explore. We were able to support a local business applying for a powering business grant and energy efficiency application, and that was for $700,000, I think. It was a really good opportunity to be able to say something nice to assist a local person apply for one of these grants to help them reduce their emissions, reduce their electricity costs, reduce their overheads, and continue to be part of Gawler's business. And we're also looking to reach out for nomination for Sustainable Gas Day in 2026. We can't really participate until we get someone to nominate locally, either in Gawler or Salisbury or Playford. We'd really like to build on that to show what can be done for sustainable and built form, but we're going to be looking again to see if we can invite people to nominate their houses. On managing risk to council in our community, this has been a difficult one that we've really looked, how can we do more of this? How can we do it better in this year? So We looked at our exposure to mandatory financial disclosures. Some big businesses are doing that right now, they have to. It's not mandatory for councils yet. We looked at the risk and thought, and it's been assessed that it could be 2 to 5 years away. What mandatory financial disclosure does is that you need to report on your climate risk, whether it's direct risk or financial or indirect risks, and it also requires you to provide your emissions and may require more of that scope for the emissions reporting than we're doing at the moment. But until there's really clear guidance on it, we don't think it's worth us, it's not worth us putting more time and resources into it when it might change. We've also been participating in local government association climate risk and government programs. LGA provides a knowledge bank of resources for understanding and managing climate risk, so that's all online. And they had some forums where they were speaking to officers, but I felt that I can't really just re-communicate that to elected members and senior management. We felt that there was a need for those to have targeted sessions, so LGA has listened to that, and the town of Core has been successful in being able to host the next forum, climate risk and information sessions for elected members. It's going to be here on the 14th of October, together with the Lower North Council's Barossa, Light, Adelaide, Plains and Gawler. So that'll be a great opportunity. I hope that the elected members will be able to attend that, and we'll keep promoting it so we get other councils to join. It will cover risk to local government, the direct and indirect and transition risk, the legal and financial responsibilities, and guidance to manage climate risk. And then it should lead on to, okay, what do we need to do in this space that's beyond our normal risk processes for council? Because I know that we've already got the risk committee and do a lot of risk management, but what is unique about climate risk that we're not doing? So the next steps, where to from here? We're looking at optimising our electricity accounts under the flow power contract to get sites into the best contract and to get reduced prices under the contract. And explore those energy efficiency opportunities at 3 sites under the Energy Ready service. We want to build on the October Climate Risk and Governance Forum when that takes place. We'd like to complete the review of the environmental management plan, so it's a real commitment there. We'll get onto that. Commence the review of the Climate Emergency Action Plan, because that's been in place for quite some time, so that'll need to be reviewed. And brief council on the proposed priority actions at the 28th of October. We'll have to bring that back to you. Thank you very much for your time. Any questions?
Tim, oh, sorry. It's interesting you were saying, about the contract that we're now connected with the flow thing and all that sort of stuff. But we, as elected members, represent the public, the community and so forth. Are you aware that how much electricity costs for each household or many households in between $400 and $500 a week? In some places to pay, What can we do as a local government to be able to, whether it's through the LGA or whatever it may be, or is it completely outside of our hands to be able to assist the ratepayers we represent?
Yeah, obviously we're not the decision maker or the rule maker of the electricity market, but I think where we can play a part is informing people what they can do. So there's this wonderful site called Energy Made Easy, and as all of the electricity products change constantly, you can go from being on a good deal to that deal suddenly being evaporated or shut down, and you're on another deal that you might not fully understand, which might not be the best deal, or it might be a really bad deal. So Energy Made Easy is one tool where ordinary households and small businesses can go on with their actual national meter number from their meter, and it'll compare their electricity use under their contract with another contract, and it'll let them know what are the cheapest contracts they could be on. I was just going to share one of the other options is this community solar concept that the likes of Mitcham, who else is doing it? Oh, Campbell. Those are the two good examples. Burnside, sorry, shouldn't forget that one. Then place for the left. So we are, well, when I say we, I'm looking to engage the team to look at a concept for the town of Gawler. And all that's about is getting a supplier to provide the community members the opportunity to invest in batteries and solar, ideally for zero up front with a guaranteed reduction in the power bills on an ongoing basis. So that's pretty big assistance that local government can do without having to reach their own pocket to do it.
Yeah, I think we've covered that in the more detail. I didn't mention it here, but it is something we're looking at. We're even actually going to be speaking with one energy company tomorrow just to find out what they think would be on the cards. But now that we've finished the electricity procurement, we could look at these other opportunities, certainly for us, but also for supporting community schemes. So we wouldn't be directly a player, but we would facilitate all of those that engagement so that can happen.
It's not Tindo, is it?
No, we're not. We haven't even looked at it.
No, you said you're talking to it.
Oh, yeah, it's not Tindo.
Right. Yeah, I'll compare notes. So next time I can talk about it now. I have been talking to Tindo about what they could offer as a community solution.
Yeah. And I think now that it's been done in Mitchell and done in other councils, the concept is proven. People can get solar and battery for zero cost up front, pay a cheaper rate of electricity ongoing, and it's a good thing to do. And if we can facilitate that in a way where we've at least gone to the market to seek expressions of interest, treated everybody fairly, come up with a solution, chosen a partner, and made it happen, why wouldn't we do that? That's a question. So.
Yes. So I've typed the questions down, but they just bloody logged out. But I'll try to remember them. So with the flow program, if we did have battery storage and you did have a bit of high yield wind and we had surplus, can we actually then use that program to store surplus wind energy in our system? Saying no? Cool. That's cool. Then with our, say, 99 kilowatt system over at the admin centre and our big ones over our, and I won't hold you to this, but I'm assuming we are exporting surplus pretty consistently, or are we predominantly usage on site for those systems?
On weekends, we're exporting virtually all of it.
Yep.
During the week, admin centre is consuming just about all of it. The civic centre is consuming all of it.
Yep.
Even the library probably has the most consistent export. That system works really well,
Yep.
but it consumes a lot of it.
Yeah.
And the elderly centre and the visitor centre, I can't really recall, but they're much smaller systems anyway.
So then, in the future, is there the opportunity of sizing up these battery storage? Because it sounds like that's where we're potentially heading. And then as our efficiency picks up on those sites, we have the surplus for requirement, then we have the ability to store the excess. Then with our flow program, do we have the opportunity to get the windmills turned back on and get more into that grid so when the wind's blowing, the sun's shining, we're taking every opportunity to stockpile for that night.
Exactly. That's how
That's
it
it.
works.
Okay.
So when the prices are negative, you want to be using that electricity either to consume it or store it.
Yep.
So you'd be filling up. That's where the electric vehicles can come in down the track as well.
Yep.
With vehicle to grid technology, there's a fair amount of storage in each vehicle compared to a normal household battery. So that's another opportunity that we would look at.
So, and my other one was around the flow program you talked about, I'm not going to do this justice, but you talked about a 6-month comparison within the market value to check contract within the market. And I think that sort of ability goes for about 6 months. And then you touched on hopefully we can do our own, or we throw in a bit of extra money to get to get the additional 6 months. The only reason to me that sounds like really smart money because a 12-month cycle is probably going to give you the best data over a seasonal cycle. Correct me if I'm wrong. So like that, if this is really working over a 6-month period, if that 6 months starts over summer, the data gather would probably be different over a winter. So is that a fair comment?
I think it's a fair comment that we need to be using all of the data that we've got, and from the start of the contract onwards, that data is available through the National Electricity Market and through the reports that are provided to us for the flow power. What the consultant's doing is he's doing a few more tweaks and giving us some additional tables with pretty colours so that we can understand it when they actually colour in the costs in each 5-minute interval, and you think, I can see what's going on by the patterns. But it's really a question of, can we train ourselves up to do that, to replicate that, or do we still need some help? So I think, yes, we need that data, we need to make the progress, and we need to monitor things, but it's just a question of what resourcing or assistance do we need. And I can't answer that yet until I get a little bit more into it.
Yeah, not the straight off. It's just that consistent data stream over that 12 months and comparing the right. Did you?
Just one thing to add, there's two components for this program. So yes, there's the precinct consultancy work, and we are hoping to be trained in that to do it ourselves, so we don't have to pay for that. But there's also that Energy Ready program that Flow Power is doing for us for 6 months, which is free. We can purchase that in the future if we need it. And that's, from my understanding, going to assist to build that business case around the correct sites for battery storage and capacities and all those sorts of things. We're hoping to achieve that in that 6-month window. If we can't, then we can always purchase that program to ensure that we get what we need out of it.
Yeah. Fair enough. And then the last one was more of a comment and answer to Chris's question around the COP. So whoever's going to be mayor, who I've always signed us up for, going down to Adelaide Town Hall to be local government COP ready. So that's where Adelaide City Council are hosting and trying to answer those sorts of questions in relation to what local governments in the state can call as want to benefit from, whether that's an economic benefit, whether or not it's still that. So hopefully I can, or someone can, bring back that information.
Yes, Katie.
Councillor
Davies, sorry.
Do we have further breakdowns around, for example, Pacific Centre and its, in terms of reining in the electricity? Do we have much of an idea of anything that's at a more granular level?
So we probably answered that a little bit. So one of the diagrams that Tim did have up showed those spikes in electricity draw, especially early in the morning. That is when all the building systems start up and get the building to temperature. So what we want to be doing through this Energy Ready program is model that to see if it's actually beneficial to just keep them running the whole time, for example. So whilst it might be saying the smart option is turn things off because then you're not using power, the smart option might actually be leave them on to maintain the temperature so you're using the power at the right time, which is overnight when it's cheap. So those are the things we need to model, but we need the evidence and data, which we've only just started getting because we now are on these new contracts and we're able to unpick those bills and see that model based on 5-minute intervals essentially, and that's what we'll be doing over the next 6 months.
And it may even pay that there might be periods of time where you turn things off for a short period as half an hour and you can save significant amounts. So we need to look at that. There's a combination of smart controls and what they call dumb controls, which is just understanding when you might need to manually make a tweak. Yes, Councillor Hughes.
The extreme heat is probably our biggest concern for our residents, and just what are we doing in that space, I suppose, with that risk. I know Red Cross, if they're emergency ready, working with insurance and stuff like that as well. It's a big one.
Yeah, it's something that
I think is part of being considered in a regional public health plan, the climate change impacts in that Jack's involved with. We've also talked about opportunities when we're looking at upgrading facilities like sports facilities and other things like that. Can we actually look at what we might need to do to support community during extreme events as part of that, or have that capability to support the different levels of safer places and I forget all the terms. I did look into them when I wrote down all the different terms that they use for the different levels, but basically means where we've used the sports and community centre in the past is not really suitable for it. It doesn't have backup power, doesn't have all of those things that you might need, but can we think to how we might have future facilities that would better support community if you need to, if there's those types of extreme events? And I know that you've got the code blues and other things like that which kick in. There's probably opportunity to look at what else can we do in that space when the conditions are really severe. Yes, Jay.
Can I just add, Tim, that the climate issue is one of the key outcomes of the new state public health plan around public health and wellbeing. So that's right up there as one of the key sort of strategies that the state government will be looking at in terms of preparedness and readiness. And the Code Red is the other backup plan at a local level in terms of what we do to support our community when we do have those extreme conditions.
And I agree, we probably need to do more.
One of the things you put up there before was about the tree line, and that's a challenge for you in your portfolio of what you're doing and so forth. And you know, some of the annihilation of trees around this town in the last 6 months has been quite incredible. Especially, I'm talking about the developers, what they did up there on Carlton Road, and all around the town of Gawler, like the Visitor Information Centre. I know because I was part of them when I was in there, and that sort of thing. They're all gone. The what do you call it, Homemaker Centre, and anybody goes to Hungry Jack's like I do, and that sort of stuff. The Gawler Green, and all these trees are just gradually being removed. Do you yourself have any connections with who's taking those or who's giving permission? Because the challenge that you've got about greening Gawler is getting annihilated in the last 6 months, like every week.
Yeah, it's a challenge when you're not the decision maker and we don't control all those decisions, whether it's the state commission, the development assessment panel and things like that, the SCAP, we don't actually have impact over a lot of those decisions. But I know that there's been a lot of tree applications for removal of trees that the planners have said, no, well, you can't do that. The council has said, no, this is a significant regulated tree. We value our trees, we want to keep them. I guess it's more, to me, it's a cultural change that we need. We need people to value trees, to value the cooling benefits of it. It's 10 degrees cooler under the shade of a tree than it is in the open sunlight. And when you've got trees shading pavements and hard surfaces, it's a much cooler environment. And if people would, the more people that we encourage to appreciate those benefits of trees, appreciate the benefits of cooling and greening and biodiversity, the more chance we're likely to have of people keeping and retaining those trees and fighting to retain those trees. It's almost counterintuitive that you'd want to remove trees when the value of your property is actually higher when it's surrounded by trees than when it's got no trees. But they're the challenges that we face because we live in a democracy and people can make decisions and all of those sorts of things. So it's really got to be one of influence and leadership. And if council does all it can do on its land and in its use of open space, that shows where its leadership is. And that's what we're doing. Are there any more questions?
If there's no more questions, we'll wrap up for tonight. Thank you so much, Jim, for the presentation, and thank you, members, for coming along.